Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, with parents' permission, once again to Dynamos Dozen, the podcast that we bring you each and every single week, where we talk about whatever may be on our minds, from pro wrestling, sports, entertainment, music, movies, muesli, fresh shots and jocks, and everything in between, never forgetting the talc. And yes, Dynamo is back, baby. Sorry you missed me, I know. I've had a couple of messages wondering why I've had to put Niall, the shopkeeper Hogan, through solo shows on his own. But guess what? He's been doing a hell of a job, as he always does. He is Mr. Reliable. I am the Dynamo, and this is your Dynamo's Dozen. Niall, my friend, back with you.
Yeah, not too bad at all, mate. How are you? Good to have you back. It's been a busy few weeks with lots going on. I might just kill that banner at the bottom because it's killing us, I think, in terms of camera and stuff like that. So I'll get rid of that. It's not really needed anyway. But yeah, it's been a busy few weeks while you were gone. You know, Punk showing up here and there. We've been going mad on TikTok, of course. Head over and follow us on our TikTok page as well. It's going absolutely bananas at the moment as well. Lots of people following us over there and having a lot of fun with people. Plenty to talk about tonight. We're going to be finalising Backlash. We'll go through that with you shortly. We're going to be talking about the draft, of course. And we have a poll up there at the moment running. So anyone who's in the chat or anyone who's viewing it at the moment, if they want to vote on that poll that's up there on YouTube,
Yep.
the poll is basically who won the draft. Was it Raw? Was it SmackDown? No point in putting in NXT because I think NXT was decimated, losing their champions and various other talents. JD McDonough, of course, getting drafted to Raw. Big move. So
Shout
that
out
should
to
be
Jordan
interesting.
Devlin. Shout out to Jordan Devlin, where he belongs.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've a good show. We're going to be chatting to. We're going to be looking at some video footage, of course. Last week we lost Jerry Springer, so we thought we'd give it a little video footage this week as well of a show that's up on our TikTok page. 50,000 people so far have really enjoyed it, so we said we'd show it on the show this week as well. We're going to be listening to Edge, who appeared on the Impulsive podcast with Logan Paul. He's going to be talking about the Undertaker being the GOAT, of course. In the comments, we have Daz there. How are you, Daz? Big up, Niall and Ian. Hope you're both well. Cheers for joining us, my friend. Make sure you drop a little vote on that poll on YouTube if you can, Daz. Let us know your thoughts on the draft. We're also going to be talking about AEW All In. Surprising, quite a high amount of ticket sales going out on pre-sale. They went on pre-sale there yesterday. I think there was about 3 hours of the pre-sale yesterday. 35,000 plus tickets went yesterday alone. I haven't gotten the update yet from today, but we'll have a full update next week because there's a pre-sale going on today as well. There's a pre-sale going on tomorrow. And then the full sale, I think, is on Friday. So we should know by Friday how that 90,000 seater stadium, who's celebrated, of course, 100 years this week, how it's going to look for All In come August. Isn't it? Is it August? Am I right?
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
August, isn't it? Yeah, it is August, is it?
I believe so.
Let me just check. It is August 27th. I'm second guessing myself. There's so much stuff going on at the moment. Um, Daz, I have Niall. The Dynamite card looks good for tonight. Yeah, it does look good for tonight. Actually, they're definitely up in their game. There's no doubt about that.
And guess what else
Um,
looks good tonight, Daz? The Dynamo. Um, that's uh, that's um, that's interesting that they're up in their game because they know that their star player is on the way back soon, which I'm sure we will talk about soon. Um, the man who absolutely knows how to sell tickets, and this will be an interesting show. But I do actually encourage everyone to go to the poll as well tonight on YouTube, as Niall said. We want to get as much interaction, which is as possible. As Niall mentioned, he's been putting a lot of work into the TikTok, and the views are absolutely astronomical. Hopefully, we're going to start seeing some of that resonating over here to the live shows. And of course, if they want to catch up when they can't watch it live, we understand that people live and have things to do. But all the support so far is absolutely much appreciated, especially all of the regular the regulars on the live stream here. So yeah, make sure you interact with us on the live poll, and we'll try and get that baby up as high as possible. Eno, what's the crack, lads? Good to see you. Good to see you, Ian, back on Dynamo's dozen. Well, I am the Dynamo, but I'm not always the dozen. So it's good to be back on Dynamo's dozen. So,
Absolutely.
yes, glad
Absolutely.
to be back.
Yeah, good stuff. Right, so let's start. Let's get into the draft. Talk about this draft that happened. So we had two sections of it. I don't know. Did you catch much of the draft? Did you see it? I suppose the real question, where do we start, is like kind of a lot of people have been talking about. How do you feel about the draft and its importance? Like, what does it mean to you and stuff like that? And I was kind of pondering this and thinking about it the other day. I know Jim Cornette was addressing it on his podcast as well. But for me, the draft for me really lays down your kind of potential viewing and matchups for the next year, realistically. Unless they sort of move people across because of injury or something like that. But by and large, so I'm always interested in the draft and what way it's going to go. The other dimension to it, of course, is NXT as well, and who comes up from NXT, who makes that leap up to the big show, if you like. It's always very interesting how they select that. And I have to say, on this year's draft, NXT got absolutely rinsed, losing their champions, tag champions, people coming up. It was a madness, really. You know, there's quite a hole being left there in NXT. So it'll be interesting to see what they do in NXT now and how they boost it up and stuff like that and fill that void of losing the women's tags and the women champion and all that kind of stuff. So, but we'll kind of get into that. But of course, there's no surprise really. There's not a huge amount of surprises in it, insofar as, because these days we have so much information, background information and stuff like that. We know who's partners with who, we know who's married to who, all that kind of stuff. And they tend to follow each other to the shows generally. So we knew from the Friday night SmackDown show with the Street Profits going to SmackDown, we had a fair idea that Bianca Belair was going to follow Montez Ford there anyway. So we had a kind of a switcheroo, as they call it. And this was kind of demolition powers of pain with Fuji switcheroo. So Rhea went one way, Bianca went the other way, and never the two belts should meet. So they'll probably have to switch the belts around just to align the colours. And keep everything nicely coordinated.
Or just get proper pro wrestling belts made. That would be much easier for everybody, I think.
Yeah, well, we'll have to get your thoughts as well on the new world heavyweight one as well as we go through the show, of course, because there's a few nice little bits there you've missed out on over the last few weeks. That was interesting.
I've actually, I've held my tongue on that belt as well, and I've actually been asked about it, and not even you know my opinions on the belt, really. So.
No. Absolutely. So it'll be interesting to hear your thoughts on it. The big one, I suppose, coming out of Friday night was AJ Styles returned, of course. Great to see him back, and the club and stuff like that. And of course, we're still kind of pining, aren't we, for that club versus Judgment Day, that Balor versus AJ Styles. What we want is a kind of a 6-month program culminating in a big belt match or something like that. But they're on different brands at the moment. But let's see, we might get a cross brand for Survivor Series. Who knows? Might get a War Games. That'd be kind of cool or something like that. Let's see what happens there, you know. We also had Shinsuke as well moving over to Raw on the Friday night show. But the free agent one was an interesting one. It was one of the free agents. I'm not surprised that the other two, Dolph Ziggler and Mustafa Ali, they're kind of not generic guys, but guys that you can use in a lot of different situations if you're stuck. So handy to use them on both shows if needed. But Omos was an interesting one, and I suppose the feeling about Omos is that he's such a big guy, and because you might want to parachute him into a short storyline, we know on Backlash he's going to face Seth Rollins. But that kind of storyline, they're kind of, with these big guys, they tend to be quite short-lived. What was your thoughts on Omos being a free agent? Because he's new in there, really. He's the big guy and stuff like that. So they slotted him straight in as a free agent.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Like, I think he needs to be working his ass off in the background and on TV as little as possible, if that makes sense. It's kind of like that Andre the Giant attraction type of thing. Seeing too much of him just takes away the I suppose the the scale of the man and just the massive size of him. But whereas if he comes back with a bit of, I mean, imagine him coming back to a match and like doing something like even something as simple as a drop kick. I think having him there as a plan B and almost like a, you know, I know the world is the World War III is looming, but imagine him as like a nuclear weapon, if you will. That you can bring him in for special occasions and kind of let him get in a bit. Not that he's in bad shape, Jesus Christ. I'm not saying he's not,
No.
but imagine like him spending a bit of time less on the road and more honing the kind of craft and being a bit more polished. I mean, he doesn't have to be a technical catch can style wrestler, but just simple things where his posture and his movement in the ring is a little bit better, and he doesn't look as wooden as he does. And it's not all on the other guy in with him. He knows his ring position and stuff like that. Because, I mean, let's be honest, Niall, it's quite obvious that those skills aren't there yet. But yeah, I mean, look, he's a unique looking guy. He's a monster of a man. So it's interesting. It's just it's kind of similar to the Joint Gonzalez type thing, isn't it? Brought
Yeah,
in,
he seems ideal, doesn't he, for those like those one-off marquee matches, say at a Crown
exactly,
Jewel and stuff like that.
exactly.
In the years ago when you go to the circus or the carnival, we know where the roots of the business is. That
Yeah,
marquee guy, that joint that they'd reel out that no one ever seen and stuff, the size of them and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
But that was kind of the gist of it, really. Obviously, Cody Rhodes on Raw, and with Roman going to SmackDown, then that means their paths will not meet in the near future by the looks of things. So they're probably going to go a different direction with Cody and stuff like that. It may eventually come full circle, but it looks like Cody's probably going to be heavily involved in this Night of Champions for the new world heavyweight title that they're bringing in. Acers is in. How are you? AEW have sold 35,000 tickets so far. It will definitely be a sold out show. We shall see. The first bump is always the biggest one. 35,000, remember, is just over a third. Just over a third, but certainly a great start for them in terms of ticket sales. But not easy to get to the 90,000.
I think Punk. I mean, like all the egos need to we'll probably talk about this later, but all the egos need to be put aside here on this deal, and a Punk match with someone involved from the elite would be, I think that would drive it to being a sellout without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, Punk returning will do that anyway, but I think if deals can be made and egos can be put aside, yeah, it could be astronomical, and it could be actually the making of this company, and finally just get a move on.
Yeah, let's get business done. Acer's back in again.
Yep.
Looking forward to Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. Winner takes all. Was teasing on Raw Monday night promo by Paul Heyman. Absolutely brilliant. And Seth Rollins looking forward to seeing Roman Reigns holding all titles. Did you see this? The madness of this, the teasing of all titles. Good Lord. Can you imagine that? Eno's in. I believe AEW are starting up their own brand draft. Interesting. Yeah, no, they're talking about there's a new show coming online soon. And the talk was originally they were going to split the brand, if you like, and obviously keep Punk and the Elite apart, maybe culminating with that big show in Wembley where they come together and stuff like that. But again, as you said, let's park the egos and get business done is the most important thing.
Yeah, 100%.
When we go into the second night, which was the Raw draft, then of course Lesnar being announced as the free agent, no surprise, kind of a little bit like Omos, but obviously a much bigger star, of course. But it makes sense as well to keep Lesnar free agent because it means you can ping him on wherever you want to go, depending on the pay-per-views or the shows that are coming up and stuff like that. Obviously they finished off. They completed, if you like, the Bloodline back onto one show, and they obviously completed the Judgment Day back onto one show as well, which made kind of sense. Not a huge amount else in there from it that really kind of affects it. Not much even in the free agent side of things. Baron Corbin, Shelton Benjamin. Shelton Benjamin and Cedric Alexander is always a good one as well. Solid tag team and stuff like that could be used. Certainly two real utility guys as well. But yeah, there wasn't when I go down through. I'm just looking at it here. Trish to Raw. Karrion Kross and Scarlett to SmackDown. Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez to Raw, women's tag team. Was an interesting one, and as I said, the Judgment Day being reunited after Rhea Ripley had happened, So again, it wasn't so much looking at the names; it was sort of looking at once they announced this new World Heavyweight title, and once we see the Bloodline going to SmackDown, we know the other title is pinned for Raw. It was very clear from Triple H's announcement about the title that it was going to keep separate from Roman. So it'll be interesting to see on Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia what way it goes in terms of who gets the belt. My thinking, I'm not too sure what yours is probably Seth Rollins. That be the thinking? You thinking that kind of way as well, or?
Yeah, I think there might be a swerve there. I think well they've teased in particular. They've teased the Tree Boys, haven't they? Balor, Rollins, and Cody. Because I do honestly think Balor's stock has risen since WrestleMania. Finally, because I think H is pushing it, and the Judgment Day, I suppose, has had a big ripple effect on that. Himself, Rhea, and Ray in particular have really become standout stars in that, and so I think you'll see. I think you're going to get to see some pretty good matches with those three over the next course of maybe 6 months to a year. But yeah, I would be thinking that Rollins would be the one to throw the curveball and keep that whole Tommy Dreamer style not quite getting the title yet. There could be a curveball in there because I mean Cody is the face, so if you'd probably see another heel turn from Seth for the 100th time, I'd imagine. But makes sense to me. And then, as I said, those three boys are, in my opinion, star players because they're there every week and they're all kind of putting a shift in their own way. So it'd be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when a demon shows up as well, they can always throw a curveball. So.
Yeah, and Kenny shows up. How are you, Kenny? Good to see you in there, mate. JD to Rock excites me. Think the guy is a superstar. And how does this feel for you? I mean, this is a guy. I saw this guy wrestle as a kid in a mask, growing up in the wrestling business in Brian.
He robbed my name as well, if you recall. Dynamo Devlin.
yeah. There was Dynamo Devlin. Then there was he Aguila as well?
He was Aguila the third.
He was Aguila, yeah. Remember Aguila back in the day and stuff like that? No, but how do you feel when you see this guy? You see the draft and this guy's coming out on Raw. How do you feel about that? I mean, obviously, when we look at Balor and stuff like that, we knew Fergal was destined for this kind of thing. He was an absolute star. Even back in those old gym shows, he was an absolute star and stuff like that. But how do you feel then when you see Jordan? There's a guy, Jordan, who kind of fell out of love with the business for a while and got out of it and stuff like that, rekindled his love with the business and came through the OTT stuff and all those great shows when he went back in there and stuff, and then has moved on to NXT and the Performance Center and all the training and the hours he's put in with Paul and all and stuff like that over the years, and Fergal, of course. How do you feel when you see a guy like that come out?
You see, it's like, as you know, myself and Jordan have always been very close. Especially kind of in the last 10 years. Like you watched him in gym shows. I watched him as an annoying little 12-year-old climbing up and down the ring every time we were in training, and he was like the little brother / pet dog that just wanted attention. It's amazing. Like it's like on SmackDown as well. Becky getting drafted up in the top tier as well. Just seeing how far everyone has come from that gym, and it's incredible. Like it's a sense of pride as well. I mean, Jordan was always going to get there, and I wouldn't say fell out of love with the business. I think you never fall out of love with it. I can speak to that myself, as you know, Niall. How many times have I gone back, not been up to it, gone back, not been up to it? It's like a drug. To be fair, it's like heroin. A heroin addict who's recovered will still always be an addict, but they learn how to just get over it and deal with it. And I think wrestling's like that kind of drug. Disillusioned would be the word. I think would be better served. But in terms of, man, I'm so proud of him, so happy for him. Like I said at the top of the show, he's where he deserves to be, where he needs to be, and it'll be interesting to see if you see Balor take him under his wing in the Judgment Day eventually, and you get to see another nice little match that we only saw in NXT UK a while back. So it'll be just delighted for the kid. As I said, he comes from good stock. He's a great guy, and absolutely deserves everything that's coming his way. And like I said, I couldn't be prouder. It's an amazing feeling to see people get what they deserve. And Paul Tracy used to always say, "It's what you put into it." And Jordan, Becky, and Fergal are three people that definitely got out what they put into it. So
yeah, they put in the hard miles, all right, that's for sure. Yeah, and it's going to be, I'd imagine how cool it'll be for that old NWA crew as well when eventually they face each other again on a big pay-per-view or something like that. That'll be the pinnacle of it, really. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. Daz is back in as well. Where did Ray end up? He ended up on SmackDown. He was drafted across with the this LWO, this new faction you have in there, the Latino World Order. And Chavo has had some interesting comments on Rey Mysterio. Of course, we will talk about that shortly.
Why don't we talk about that now while it's up? Why don't we talk about that now?
Just let me pull a few comments here so we can keep up.
Yeah.
Was thinking that people who couldn't buy tickets for Money in the Bank will definitely be able to get tickets for All In. Yeah, maybe that's the case. Seth Rollins will defeat Cody in the finals at Crown Jewel. Yeah, that's my thinking as well, Acers. What's the story, Kenny from Ian? And Acers, looking forward to seeing Jordan Devlin joining the Judgment Day soon. Yeah, JD. Jordan Devlin will be joining the Judgment Day by the end of the year. Looking forward to watching teacher and student. Interesting dynamic there. So let's talk to me then about Chavo.
Yeah, it was interesting, wasn't it? We had a little bit of banter in our group chat. It's a mad one, isn't it? Because I can see where he's going. I've always kind of felt that myself. But Chavo's really gone in on it as well. And I don't necessarily think it's pure bitterness. It's easy to point a bitterness card to people all the time. I think it's more the fact that the Fed are cashing in on this, and Ray is very happy to do so. And Chavo gave a little nugget as well. I don't know whether you've seen this, to say that him and Eddie weren't the closest ever. They weren't certainly as close as Eddie and Benoit, Eddie and Jericho, Eddie and Malenko. So it was interesting to hear that. I mean, look, I think it's crazy as well. Shout out to Dazzler as well. Dazzler made a point in our group chat that Martha Hart has done the same with Owen, and I had to obviously not correct him, but put him on the path of like, well, this isn't the Harts doing that. This is Martha. Like she's the sole.
Yeah.
She has sole ownership over all of Owen's rights and stuff like that. I think the Harts would absolutely want him and his legacy to be in the WWE. It's just unfortunate when things like this happen. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. El Vicky Guerrero as well isn't squeaky clean either.
But I suppose of all the wrestlers who have passed away, and some legends have passed away, of course, is he the one? Do we think Eddie Guerrero? I think, like, from a merchandise point of view and stuff like that, I see it because of the shop. I see a lot of Eddie Guerrero shirts constantly coming out, time and time again. Latino heat, light cheat stealing, all this kind of stuff, all the different ones that are out there. And then I think that LWO one was kind of one that just pushed it just a little bit too far. And I was just wondering,
way too far, to be honest with you, because it was Eddie's thing. And it's kind of like, I saw Chavo made a good point. He goes, well, why aren't you giving some of the kickback to Eddie's daughter? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, kind of like what the deal they did with Warrior, remember? And then when Warrior passed away, a percentage, obviously, they do a lot of his merchandise still as well. Yeah. But they don't kind of shove it in your face, if you like, as much as the Eddie gear.
No, and the Warrior stuff is probably, on an international broad scale, because of the way, like, the two of them died in kind of similar circumstances where it was sudden and it was unexpected. Whereas versus the Owen tragedy was there in ring, and in fairness, we never really got that Owen merch that, for us to see what way it would have sold and stuff like that. But No, I think there's a lot of similarities with the Warrior kind of situation, and Eddie, and I guess Chavo. To be fair, like at the end of the day, Chavo was more like Eddie's brother. So I mean, he has every right to kind of air his grievances and his disappointment at things like this. I think it's easy for us to sit on the outside and looking in to, maybe look at him going, "Oh, you're just being bitter." I mean, how many times has Brett been called bitter over the years? And when you've lived and lost like some of these guys have, you forget that these were characters on TV screens, but these were also family members and brothers and sisters to these guys. They
Yeah.
they put more miles in together as people on the road than they did with their own wives and
Mm.
husbands, I suppose. So it's
Yeah, I just
yeah,
as I said, Joe, I just find with the Eddie stuff, I just find that it's just that bit more in your face. Like
it's too much.
you seen
Yeah,
the
it's too
entrance
much.
at WrestleMania and the low rider, and it just brings up stuff. I mean, I met the guys at 22 after his death.
Yeah,
I met
yeah,
Chavo and I met Benoit and all. We were speaking and stuff like that and all, and it was quite uncomfortable for them as well. And of course, remember Ray got the world heavyweight belt at 22, and that was part of the rub, the knock on from Eddie's passing kind of thing with the Hall of Fame and all that kind of stuff, the induction and everything and all. And I just feel out of all of them there, like you don't see Paul Heyman rocking down to the ring in a Bobby the Brain Heenan shirt, or
well,
you know what I
I
mean.
was gonna I was gonna
You know
ask
where
you
I'm
something
coming
there.
from.
Let me ask you a question then. Like, do you not think that Ray can get over enough on his own without constantly it's going back to Eddie? It always seems to go back to Eddie. Let's get a few shirt sales in. Now look, the company is also deciding this. It's not just Ray. Let's be
Yeah,
fair to
yeah,
Ray, because I think Ray is a pretty good dude. I don't think, maybe there's obviously frustration there on Chavo's part that Ray could turn around and say, "Look, I think we've cashed in on the man enough, like, without constantly putting me in the limelight,
mm,
as the protagonist, I suppose, of
yeah,
bringing up Eddie's old gimmicks and bringing Eddie into it." But it's the same whole thing with the poppy thing, or the mommy thing.
mm.
It's still going on what Eddie fucking created. You know what I mean? So I can
Yeah. Well, that was
understand.
that was kind of slightly different insofar that it was trying to work Dominic that way as with the history there and stuff, and
Yeah,
elevate him kind of. So there's a different element to that, you know what I mean? But
yeah,
I just think, yeah, I just think at times, I just think it's slightly too much, and especially for a guy like Chavo as well, who's family. It's different when it's
yeah,
family and stuff like that as well.
yeah. It's
You don't
different. Yeah,
constantly want this brought up all the time. You know what I mean? Sometimes you want people to be allowed to rest in peace. You know what I mean? And not constantly being brought up and stuff like
and
that
with
and
the
all.
whole
You know
thing
what I
with
mean?
Vicky
And
Guerrero, what's going on there as well at the moment? Like that's kind of it's probably they're probably a little bit delicate at the moment
yeah,
and not really wanting, Eddie, because I mean Eddie in his own right is just should be Eddie Guerrero. Shouldn't be constantly his gimmicks coming up, and yeah, I can see it. It's a tough one, but yeah, I think they need to stop pouring the name out now. To be honest with you, but the old man is
yeah.
back in town, so that's not going to
Yeah.
stop anytime soon.
Let's see how that goes. As you know, on the show, Ian, every week we do notable birthdays, but we'll give a shout out to these two as well. Big stuff coming this week. Obviously, Gunter got married to Ginny this week. I don't know if you've seen the videos out there. He's quite the mover and shaker, our Gunter. This man can
Oh,
move on a
really?
dance floor. I don't know if you've seen the videos. I didn't clip him, but I might clip him for next week. But he was at the wedding reception. He's got the moves like Jagger. He's got the moves. Tell you, pretty impressive, I have to say.
For
And
a
then we've
German
got
as
a
well, or an Austrian, or whatever.
Austrian, yeah, but absolutely. And then, of course, congratulations to Carmella and Corey Graves on expecting their first child. So, congrats all round to both those. Of course, you can
He's
see that.
grown. He's grown on me on the commentary table. I have to say.
Yeah, because you weren't a big fan originally. Sure, you weren't.
No, no,
Yeah,
and same with her. I know I like to wind people up about Carmella, but yeah, absolutely. Congratulations. They're in love. They're happy.
yeah,
You know, let's celebrate it. Things
yeah,
happen.
absolutely.
Shit happens, unfortunately, in life.
And as you see, folks, there, if you want to be enjoying our content on TikTok, like all those other people out there at the moment, there is the QR code. You can scan that QR code, brings you straight to our TikTok page where you can enjoy our daily shorts and TikToks that go up. This man we lost last week, of course, we have to bring him up. Jerry Springer. heavily involved in the wrestling at times, has been involved in so much stuff. I mentioned at the time when he
He's one of the
passed
best
away.
workers anyway, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I mentioned at the time this was Mr. Clickbait before clickbait was a thing. It was unbelievable. So what I wanted to do tonight in tribute of Jerry Springer, I wanted to play a clip from one of his shows, and I thought there's no better clip to play than the man himself, the Iron Sheik. So we'll take a look at this, and you can let me know your thoughts on Jerry after. Enjoy this one, folks.
Sheik, you obviously were once a great wrestler, right?
Well, I respect you, Jerry. You're intelligent. You know I was the real WWF champion before that Hollywood blonde Hulk Hogan. I beat Bob Backlash, Madison Square Garden, and after that I put that Hollywood blonde Hulk Hogan. Same thing in Madison Square Garden. I respect.
You know what? I don't think I'm gonna have a problem moving on, Jerry. Check it out. Come on down.
So there you go. Absolutely brilliant. Cheeky baby. Never loses a jury, doesn't.
No, and shout out to anyone that hasn't seen the latest Sheik documentary. Check it out. They done one on A&E. But also, if you can check out the, I'm sure we'll do a Sheik show at some point, but check out the original Sheik documentary as well. Very, very sad story. There's a reason the man has had issues with substance abuse and all back then. And it's great to see Sheiky back. But yeah, just going on Jerry Springer, I actually read a different quote, Niall, which is a measure of the man. I saw something on Twitter the other day. And anyone that knows Jerry Springer knows that he had Jewish family, and I think his parents were both Holocaust victims, or else his grandparents. I'm not too sure, but he when he was mayor of, where was he mayor of, Niall? Was it Cincinnati or something? I'm not too sure now. I can be corrected on this, but he was a mayor of a big town or city in the States, and apparently in the 90s, the Klan wanted to do a march in the city. And he said, well, look, as a mayor, valuing free speech, I have to let them do it as long as there's no violence. He said, but I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because my parents are both Holocaust survivors. It was his parents. And he went to his dad, and his dad told him, let them march. This is the United States of America. People, whether it's right or wrong, people have the right to express their views. And I thought, isn't that an amazing measure of somebody that's been through so much? When we look at the world right now, and knowing that would make you sick to your stomach, but yet still allowing it to happen because, you know, people's freedoms are people's freedoms. I just thought that was absolutely fantastic. And it put Springer in a different light to me and made me go, wow, what a big, great person to you know, allow someone to do that. I mean, it'd be very similar to us as Irish people, you know, with our previous troubles, and which we have done, allowing, say, like the Queen to go up O'Connell Street, and allowing the Orange Order to do the same. It's like, it's amazing, the measure of the man. I just thought that resonated with me a lot. I'm sure you can see why, and should with many people. So rest in peace, Jerry Springer. Yeah, I mean, he created one of the best worked shows of all time, especially in the 90s. We all remember late night television. I remember being a young kid watching at like 11 o'clock when I was in bed and wasn't meant to be watching TV, and watching all these hillbillies just beat the shit out of each other because their cousin done the dirt on them.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. It was crazy stuff. Brought a new level of thinking, didn't it, about kind of like that kind of American society at times and stuff like that the parallels between the highs and the lows and the lives of where people live and all that kind of stuff and all. It was a mad insight and stuff like that. And then of course Steve, the big guy, he was the security guy, and he went on then to do his own show. I seen some tweets from him the other day when Jerry passed as well. He was very cut up about it. He said he wouldn't have any of the success he's had in his life without Jerry Springer and stuff like that. So big shout out to Steve, the security guy and stuff like that at the time. Daz was wondering, when do we both think we get Ray versus Dominic too? Do you know something, Daz? I actually don't really know, because with WWE, sometimes they just chop these storylines and they do be gone, and that's it.
It's a bit like EastEnders, isn't
it? Yeah.
Send him off camera for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden Phil Mitchell was originally a heel. Now he's back and he's the babyface because he spent a month away from the show. It's television.
Yeah, it's mad. So we don't know, but hopefully we'll get an update soon. All right. It's crazy to believe that Michael Cole is celebrating 25 years in WWE this year. A man who's often cheered and often not cheered at times. But certainly his dedication to WWE and the company is unwavering, as they say. And Ian saying, good times, my friends. Yeah, absolutely good times. Let's take a look at we'll take a look at the Backlash card. It's interesting. I haven't got your
in the middle is bothering me now, as you can see.
He's getting quite elevated as well. This is in Puerto Rico on Saturday, so it's big as well on a number of levels. Of course, Selena Vega was talking about it the other day, and she was talking about how, you know, she's facing Rhea Ripley down there in front of her family and all. She's from Puerto Rico. And she was saying what an honor it is to do this and stuff like that. But she was also talking as well about how she nearly quit wrestling. And she was on the set of the Page. Remember the Page movie that the Knights movie that The Rock did, Fight for My Family or something, wasn't it? Fight for My Family.
Fighting with my family, yeah.
Fight. Yes. And she said that she had a chat with The Rock on the set, and The Rock convinced her not to give up the wrestling stroke entertainment business. So shout out to The Rock and Selena Vega, but she's pumped for this match. I don't expect the title change, but I do expect quite an intense crowd. That Puerto Rican crowd, they don't suffer fools, and all these girls and guys on this card are going to have to show up and bring their A game on Saturday night, because we know how revered wrestling is down in Puerto Rico. What did you make of the Omos Seth Rollins match? Kind of just shot up out of nowhere.
Not much. That's the short answer. Yeah, it's just bleh. It's going to make Seth look better, I suppose. Doesn't do anything for Omos really, other than be a guy there, but it definitely elevates Seth. If and when, which we know he will, overcome it. That jabroni in the middle there with his glasses down, I'll switch off during that. I might watch The Angelus or something during that one.
Is there any way this guy wins you over in Logan Paul fashion if he goes out there against Damian Priest on Saturday night and does the business? Could he win you over? I know you've been quite critical of him all along. So
never. Logan Paul's an athlete with a bona fide, or bona fide, as you like to say, Niall. Let's cover all angles. Background in, amateur wrestling. He's an athlete. This guy's a flipping rapper. I'm trying, holding my language in, guys. Are you proud of me? Little victories. Nothing will ever win me over with this lad, ever. Nothing. So that's all I have to say about that.
Just a shout out to people as well. If you haven't watched it yet, I've started watching, that Steve Austin Does America thing.
I haven't seen it yet.
It's
good.
Awesome. It's really good. He was on the other day. I was watching it, and he was meeting up with people who do, that sandboarding on the dunes, like skateboarding, but on the skateboards and stuff like that. Absolutely awesome. But he was going up on the top of one of these mountains to go over it on a kind of like a little dune buggy thing, and he was proper shitting himself. But it's really, really cool. Check it out. It's good fun, and he's full on in it as well. It's awesome. So make sure if you haven't seen it,
I just like to put this to rest. It's very similar to my beloved Chelsea Football Club. I look at these sycophants that are getting played and getting minutes that the young and up and coming talent should be getting. And I get that it's Puerto Rico, and I get that it's, this guy holds the record for attendance in this particular stadium. But like, why not just be the host of it, the way Miz was at WrestleMania, and take an out bump or two, or get to slap someone in the face, not have a match? I mean, you know, I'm just fed up with the regurgitated nonsense that you get. This guy is not good. Never has been good. Yeah, he learned how to do a couple of flips the same way Lita did back in the 90s. And, you know, she finally learned how to wrestle now in her maturity. But anyone that knows anything about pro wrestling knows that the Miz basically called that match and basically made him look good when he did have his performance. He's a skinny malink. He looks stupid with those stupid little balls on his hair. He looks like a ball sack. And yeah, fuck Bad Bunny. That's going to be my only cuss word for the night.
Next week's going to be a fun show if he goes out and steals the show with Damian Priest. Let's see what happens.
Well, it's not going to happen. So you've heard it here first. Get your ammunition ready. He'll go out, and to the untrained eye, he might steal the show. He's certainly not going to be stealing the show over a pro wrestler. It takes two to tango, and Damian Priest might make him look good. But what does that do for Damian Priest then? A lad who's twice the size of him, twice as tall, and just
I think the problem with it, the way things have gone, is I think we're going to get more of these kind of celebrity matches going forward. And
fuck them all. Flip them all. Sorry.
Kenny's in agreement with you. Yourself and Kenny would be of similar music taste. Bad Bunny, bad rapper too.
Listen, I like here. I'm pretty down with the cool kids. I'm wearing a backwards hat here. I like a rapper too. You know, I like a rapper too. I mean, the Macho Man had a great rap album. I like a couple of Tupac Shakur songs. Biggie Smalls, yeah, he's one or two. Listen, I understand the rap game, not very well.
Yeah, that Macho Man album, we should just specify as well, released the other day on vinyl for the first time as part of that World Record Vinyl Day or something like that. They released it. It's a double, I think, with a purple vinyl. Looks absolutely awesome. I haven't been able to track it down yet, but it's
if you ever want to hear the ultimate tribute to Mr. Perfect, go and check that out, My Perfect Friend. And if you ever really want to hear what Macho thought of Hogan, also go and check that out. But rap is crap.
Rap is crap.
You're right.
Yeah, Cena has a quality rap album.
I concur.
Absolutely. Anything else stick out on the card for you there that you like? I think Selena Vega, Rhea Ripley, I think will be a good match. Obviously, we've got Cody and Brock will be good.
Cody and Rock will be good. Man, there's just a lot of matches thrown together for the sake of it, you know. The tag match the 6-man tag doesn't fill me with any joy. Nothing stands out, Niall, to be honest with you. I'll be watching it, but I'm going to be watching this in the hope that something excites me on the night. But Cody, Rhea Vega, Cody, Brock, that'd be about it.
Bianca Io as well should be decent.
Yeah, that should be good actually.
I would assume that is in. Who do you think will win, Seth versus Omos? I presume it has to be Seth, isn't it? As we push on then towards Night of Champions.
Yeah.
It has to be Seth. I can't imagine it being anything else.
I can't see past it, no.
Yeah, no. Absolutely. As we said, he's kind of in there as that free agent and that attraction to parachute in when you need a kind of a big thing to happen and then parachute back out. No real longevity, you know. You're not going to get almost going into a 3 or a 6 month storyline culminating in a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam or something like that. It's just not the way they book those kind of attractions and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. So yeah, that's our Backlash anyway. So we had Edge as well. We thought we'd play a little clip here from Edge as well. Edge appeared on the Impulsive podcast, of course, with Logan Paul. And he was talking about a number of things. He was talking about how he regretted the sex scene with Lita on Raw that time after he had won the title, so the celebration thing and all. Obviously, he's a father now with daughters and a wife and all, so it's a different time and things like that and all when you've time to reflect on it. But the one thing he did talk about was Undertaker and being the GOAT. And he also spoke about the streak and how he didn't want any part of taking the streak at WrestleMania 24. It's a pity he didn't tell me beforehand, because I went to it hoping he'd defeat the streak, but he didn't. So if I had known beforehand, I wouldn't have wasted my money. He kept my hope alive of doing it, and it was a very good match as well. But unfortunately, not. But here he is, just a short clip on Impulsive.
Let's preface this as well by saying all rights are reserved to the Impulsive.
Absolutely. These are only clips. This is fair usage. So we'll just talk about, this is Edge appearing on the Impulsive podcast talking about Undertaker being the GOAT. Let us know your thoughts in the comments.
If you look at, in terms of longevity, and longevity at the top, that's the hardest part.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the hardest part, right? To be able to maintain it. Like, to be able to be a Tom Brady and be able to, like, and yes, what we do is entertainment, but I don't care. You still have to be in great shape, mentally on. There's so many plates that you have to keep in the air from smashing when you're out there. And to be able to do all of those things for that long with a character, by the way, who initially, like, the dude's dead. How's that going to work?
On paper, it was a bit odd.
Absolutely. Yeah. How's that going to work? And guess what? He made it fucking work.
Yeah.
Well, he had a good partner for a long time.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. But like, without him as that driving force behind, reinventing himself, because that's a lot of what this is too, then it doesn't work. If he were still just sitting up and like painted white with one of them for sure, because if you.
There you go. Edge talking.
I just want to say he's wearing one of my favorite band's t-shirts actually there. What a hell of a Ghost t-shirt. El Edge and myself share the same music values, so I guarantee you if they'd have asked him what they thought of Bad Bunny, he would have given an honest answer too. But there you go. And Edge brought the third F word into that. I didn't do it. Yeah, no, I know what you're going to ask me. Yeah, I mean, look, everything he says is true. Everything he says is true. I don't think it's lip service. I don't think it's just kissing ass. I don't think Edge is at the point where he has to kiss ass at this point. I think Edge is quite an honest cat. Especially at this stage of his life. Yeah, I think it's. We've always had this debate, Niall. We had it on the 4 Pod Men back in the day. I could tell you who my Mount Rushmore is. You could tell me who yours is. I don't think they'd be too dissimilar, to be fair. But some of the people here in the comments might have a completely different one because they've grown up in an era where certain people have meant more to them and, I suppose affected their lives in different ways. You have the run on me in age. Don't mean to throw that in there, but I'm catching up with you quickly. Whereas some of your guys that if you and me would probably have 2 different Mount Rushmores in terms of stars and wrestlers. And I think there's probably there's a lot of correlation with both. So, I mean, The Undertaker absolutely deserves his place on that Mount Rushmore for many different reasons and to many different people. So it's really hard to argue with, isn't it?
Yeah, I think with Taker, it's an interesting one because, I was looking at we were going to talk about it, but I was looking at HS, I think is the crowd. They did a load of Mount Rushmores the other day. They did an AEW one, they did an 80s and 90s, managers, tag teams. They covered the whole gamut of it really and stuff like that. But if you think of Taker, because he crosses over so many decades and he's been around so long, you could place him and drop him into any of them really, and he fits and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So it's definitely an interesting one, but the Mount Rushmore one is definitely like you could do an NWA one that's outside of WWF, and you'd look at, of course, Dusty and Rick and all those guys, Horsemen guys and all that kind of thing. The Horsemen, there's arguments for the Horsemen potentially having their own Mount Rushmore. You could argue that the X should have their own Mount Rushmore, this kind of thing, depending on who you followed and who you loved, and everyone has a different opinion on it. Let me see. Ian is back in. We are all gone very accommodating in our ages, haven't we? We just mellow
Well,
it. We
Ian,
don't.
I'm just going to preface this by saying that I've always been a Taker fan. Niall, not so much.
No.
So that's so we're actually speaking the truth here in that sense.
Absolutely. Kenny's in. The evolution of Taker has been absolutely incredible. Once in a lifetime gimmick, yeah. And who would have thought it? And I don't know if you,
My father actually says that, and he'd be what you would consider, having to grow up with a son who was a lunatic, and wanting to get into this crazy world of cartoon pro wrestling, as they call it. He always had to watch stuff, and in fairness, it's his fault because he got me into it anyway. He just didn't know what would happen, but he says it as well. He said, like, he thinks Undertaker is the best character of all time. So I mean, it's there you go. It's just what people like, and I suppose
it's amazing, isn't it? What it evolved into, wasn't it? It's amazing how it evolved over the years and stuff like that. And then he came out as the biker one and all this kind of thing, and the evolution of it and stuff like that. And you could see it in the Hall of Fame and all. And interesting one for people as well. If you haven't caught A&E Rivals this week as well, Ian, you will absolutely adore it. It was Stone Cold versus Bret Hart. Was this week's A&E Rivals. Absolutely,
it's on the list.
Stuff.
It's on the list.
Yeah, make sure folks check that out as well. It was short enough lived and not a huge amount of matches, but by God, when those two boys got into the ring, it was absolutely gold every single time.
It's sad. It's sad to think, isn't it, in a lot of ways, that if the Montreal thing hadn't happened, the amount of big time matches you would have got with those two,
it would have been incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But check that out.
Especially really because it was so unfortunate that Sean got hurt and had to basically walk away. So it was like, unfortunately, Vince, backed the wrong horse on that one in a lot of ways. And I think Vince would probably admit that if you were to sit there and have a beer with him with no cameras on. But it's just unfortunate. And then, when Sean did come back, it would have been nice to see you around too, but that's life.
Yeah, Ian's on. My mum got me into wrestling when I was 6. Yeah, absolutely. I was on a video call the other day with Ian and his mum was talking to me, started talking to me about World of Sport and everything and all. It was really cool. Shout out to Ian's mum out there as well. Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff.
What's her name? Give us her name, Ian, so we can give her a shout out.
Got the name in there. We give her a shout in. Yeah, but it was absolutely. I love when I hear that as well. I love when I hear people that their parents got them into it and stuff like that, and that you shared those moments and those times growing up and stuff like that.
Did I ever tell you, Niall? No one knows this. Did you know? Because I was the biggest Hulkamaniac as a kid.
Still
and the Heart found 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Admittedly so, and that'll never change. My dad actually was the one that became a fan of the Hart Foundation because he just thought Bret Hart was so cool. He just loved the way Bret Hart presented himself. So it was actually all this Bret Hart thing is my dad's fault. So there you go.
Yeah, so shout out to Catherine. Shout out to Catherine.
Catherine Hodgins. Shout out to you, lady. Who was her favorite wrestler, Ian? Other than Ian the Dynamo Kelly, of course, but who was her favorite wrestler? Outside of
who her favorite wrestler was, but she was going way back now when we were talking, so it was really cool. It was great to hear. I love hearing those stories, of course. Don't forget, folks, we have a poll running. Who won the WWE draft? At the moment, Raw is skating at 70% to 30% against SmackDown. NXT absolutely fell off the shelf. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Ian, shall we take a little bit of history and a few notable birthdays?
Let's do it before we wrap up, yeah.
Excellent. Cheap Heat is in. Any lamps in your room, man?
Hey, watch this. Anyone that knows me, I love lamp. Just for you, Morris.
Love it. So we shall start, of course. We had a few weeks where we didn't have any deaths in the family, let's say. But we've a couple. And this week was a very interesting week history-wise. But we start off 2003. This week, of course, we lost the beautiful Miss Elizabeth. Shout out. Absolute loss. She was 42 years young when we lost her. Very, very sad. And you think of all those moments and the back and forth with Hogan and Macho and all these things. And it's only later on we found out just how intense Macho's love for the girl was and stuff like that and all, you know, really. So very, very sad situation to die at that age. Next up, 2006. Who could forget? We got the Joey Styles promo when he quit Raw, if you remember, when they were launching the ECW brand. What a promo this guy delivered. Jerry Lawler. It's not often you see that man's jaw hit the ground if there isn't naked women around, let's say. But not often you see that man's jaw hit the ground with a promo. And Joey Styles was absolutely brilliant. I had the pleasure of meeting Joey Styles at WrestleMania 22. He emceed our breakfast that we had with the stars, and he was absolutely brilliant. So shout out
one
to
of the
Joey
only
Styles.
men probably ever to be able to say that he knocked JBL out, even if he was drunk. You know,
Absolutely.
quick one,
instead-
Niall. Just on Elizabeth. Right here's
Yeah.
one for you, for all the lads out there. Don't let your missus hear this, but what about he's laughing at Lamp. What? So Elizabeth was all the shy, squeaky clean. Now I know the answer to this. Come on, but when she was in the WWE versus in the WCW, I have to say, I had more pictures of Elizabeth in fucking WCW on my wall than I did when she was wearing those little yellow dresses and being all, woohoo, you know.
So you were more leather biker chick, Elizabeth, were you?
Oh, all day, twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I suppose when you go back and you look at Liz through that wrestling career and stuff like that, when she was in WWE, you always felt she was probably a bit too polished for that show, wasn't she?
Yeah,
She was
like-
a bit. It was a bit too kind of like. Now she was a stunning, beautiful woman, of course, and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
it always felt she was. Dare I say, way above the grime of pro wrestling at the time, if you like. She
Now,
was
look,
more pageantry.
I'm a different type of cat. You know what I mean? I was looking at that and going, that's not really doing anything for me, to be fair. It's like, yeah, she'd be nice to bring home to your man and dad, but like, you know, it'd be like going out with a fridge, whereas I'd much rather go out with a motorbike, if you get me.
There we go. Ian's in with the mother's choices. Hulk Hogan early days, Ric Flair, and Dusty Rhodes.
Nice.
Great choices.
Catherine.
Great choices. There you go. Beautiful, beautiful picks. Speaking of which, 1993, we thought we'd keep the flavour of the Hall of Fame going. WWF champion Hulk Hogan defeated IWGP heavyweight champion, the Great Muta, at New Japan Pro Wrestling in the Dontaku in Japan. Although neither title was at stake, this is an interesting one that will come out now. In a pre-match interview, Hogan said that the WWF Championship was just a toy and that the IWGP heavyweight title was the one he really wanted, which got him into a lot of bother with WWF officials when he got back in America. Interesting.
Well, it kind of
1993.
shows how much he did respect the business, no?
Absolutely. What else have we got for you? 2002 WWF Insurrection was held at Wembley Arena in London in front of 10,500 fans. How the fan base and how the audience has grown since then. But the interesting thing about this one is, and we've spoke about this a number of times, Ian, this was the day before the plane ride from hell, if you remember. And we spoke about that a lot, both in our 4 Podman days and also on here.
I never want to speak about it again, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. This was the last pay-per-view also. It was the last pay-per-view held under the WWF name before rebranding as the WWE. And it also, following this show, that the infamous plane ride from hell took place when the superstars were flying back to America, of course, resulting in both Scott Hall and Kurt Hennig being fired from the company.
Yeah.
1986. Everyone knows how big I am on Texas wrestling on the Von Erichs. The David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions event was held by World Class Championship Wrestling. Now, anyone who knows their history on the Von Erichs in Texas were gods. So when the Von Erichs were doing something, Texas shut down. That's the way it worked. In front of 32,123 fans at the Texas Stadium in Irvine near Dallas, Texas. In an emotional main event, of course, remember, Kerry Von Erich defeated Ric Flair to win his only NWA World Heavyweight Championship. How could we forget it? Kerry Von Erich and Ric Flair. Rest in peace to both David and Kerry, of course, two fantastic wrestlers. And we'll finish out with some notable birthdays. You'll enjoy some of these, of course. We start out, of course, with that man, no bigger fan of Shinsuke Nakamura or Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mr. Pat McAfee, 1987. So his birthday this week. A man who shares his year with me, The Rock. He'll be 51 this week. The Rock, 1972, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
Wow.
A man who we're both big fans of as well, 1961, The Big Bossman. How could we forget him?
Great trailer, yeah.
We're going to be fans of a lot of these, actually, because 1950, we've got Demolition Smash, who we're also big fans of. And, of course, 1915, the one, the only, Stu Hart. Stu Hart is in there this week. And 1934, this is going well, Mr. Fuji celebrates his birthday. 1939 is Bill Watts. A little bit younger than Bill Watts, 1988, Dakota Kai. And 1984, Kevin Owens, Mr. KO Mania himself.
KO is the same age as me. That's mad.
There you go. And 1980, Colt Cabana. Check out those podcasts. They're crazy.
Fuck that guy.
One half of the Nasties, Brian Knobbs, 1964. And then 1993, Will Ospreay. And we're going to round it out with the man who we love and adore and lost way too soon. 1965, the King of Hearts, Owen Hart. They all celebrate their birthdays this week. Shame, isn't it? Stu and Owen both celebrate their birthdays in the same week. Isn't that kind of smooth, isn't it?
See what you're trying to do to me now. Stop a little.
Tough week. Must be a tough week for Brett, isn't it? Tough week for Brett this week, obviously, with those birthdays, I'd imagine.
I'd say so. I'd say so.
That is it. That's everything I have for you this week.
That's everything we have for everyone this week. Niall needs to go now and watch his beloved Liverpool, as we are live. We're going to be honest, shoot from the hip. But absolute pleasure once again. Great to be back. Thanks to everybody once again in the comments and who voted on the poll. And make sure you keep voting, even if you're watching this after the fact. Be sure to go and check out our TikTok, because it's blowing up at the moment. So as we say, let's hope that resonates and comes over here to the YouTube channel. It's a pleasure as always having all the dialogue and the interaction with the viewers. There's Ian, you just came in a little bit too soon there, but I'll do it for you. I'll do it for you shortly. You probably missed it. Thanks, Kenny. Pleasure. Go and check out Kenny's book, of course. We multiple links in there, and Kenny's a gent. But I think it is that time, Niall, isn't it?
Yep, it is.
For Niall, the shopkeeper Hogan. For Ian, the Dynamo Kelly. Until next week, we are over and out.